So, unfortunately, no Sunny, no Doug on today's review. We had some unfortunate scheduling conflicts, happen sometimes, but never fear, I'm here and I want to talk to you guys about this movie I just recently watched, Kooman. So, looking forward to hanging out with you guys for the next 15 or so minutes. So, I came into this movie, to let you guys know, completely blind. I came in completely blind. That means I did not watch a trailer. I did not read any reviews. I didn't recognize really any of the actors in this movie. So I came in without much context. Even the synopsis on Amazon Prime, it's very brief and it doesn't really tell you what this movie is really about. It's very generic. So the only thing I knew coming into this movie was that it was directed by Jeetu Joseph. And I want to give a special mention to someone later on who gave me this movie as a recommendation. But I was pretty excited to watch this movie because, I'm a pretty big fan of Jeetu Joseph, especially after watching Drishyam 1 recently and then following it up with watching Drishyam 2 after that. So I was pretty stoked to sort of see what this was going to be about because, I completely love those two movies. And I wanted to see what it was like to see a movie of his without Mohanlal and without the whole Drishyam franchise behind him. But essentially, man, this movie really took me by surprise. I was really shocked and surprised by some of the twists and turns in this movie, which I want to get into a little bit later. But I want to start off by talking about sort of the first half of this movie, because this movie is, at one point, it just goes into a complete different direction, and it's like a whole different movie. I'll put it like that. But essentially, the first half of this movie, what I really appreciated and enjoyed about this was that I've seen a lot of police procedural movies in my short Malayalam watching career, if you put it like that. And most of them have been really, really dark, really gritty, and they deal with some pretty, really dark themes, like I saw Ella Visa Punchira and Irata, both extremely dark and gritty movies. So when I saw, another sort of police procedural happening in a small, village somewhere or small town somewhere, I was thinking, okay, am I in for another ride like this? Is this going to be similar to what we have in some of the movies that I've seen already? Fortunately, it was actually pretty different. When I get into it, I was thinking it's going to be the same thing, but then very quickly you realize that it's completely different. It's really central. There's really only one character I think that's central in this movie, and that's the character of Giri, the cop. And we spent a lot of time with him, especially in the first half. They do a really good job of establishing who he sort of is and what sort of triggers him, what kind of person he is. So I think the first part that really sort of sets the stage on fire really is that intense scene when he's all the police are at the kabaddi match and we see that he gets thrown and embarrassed and made fun of in society. Man, they shot that scene so well. It was pretty well done. You get to really feel how embarrassed and how bad it is for this cop, because you just see in a small town like this and the kind of trauma he has to go through. It really damages his ego, and ego is a big part of his character. Ego is a big part of who he is. But yeah, I just thought that was such a great sort of intro to this movie. It happens pretty quickly, so the pacing in terms of how we get started is really good. The first half, I just was so fascinated as to where this movie is going. I did not expect him to become a thief. I've not seen a movie that I can remember like this, where you see a policeman and he's just becoming like an undercover agent, basically a thief. Basically, his point is just to extract revenge. Revenge is a pretty central premise in Malayalam movies, as I've seen before. Rorschach, Ella Visa Punchura. It's not uncommon to see revenge sort of movies in the Malayalam film industry that I've seen so far. But this was a little bit different. I liked it because it wasn't as dark, like even though he's a robber, there's no murder, there's no death. It's really just ego, ego is central to basically the character of Giri in this movie. But I loved how intense it was. It was really gripping the whole time, and seeing him learn the ropes from the older gentleman, um, Manion, basically teaching him how to become a thief. It's really done really well because it's a combination of like montage and dialogue and storytelling. But I liked because it was so gradual. We got to see him, learn the ropes. He struggled a lot of the times, even though he's a cop. It's very, very foreign to him to go into someone's house and steal something. We see him making mistake after mistake after mistake. He really has to learn how to become a good thief. But the part I loved, especially about the first half, which is maybe the highlight for me in this entire movie, was the whole concept of intoxication or addiction. And it's done not through the lens of drugs or alcohol as we typically see it. It's done through the lens of basically being a thief and how it can consume you. So really interesting. It was really cool to see that. I didn't expect that coming into this movie, that I'm going to see a thief, and sort of to see how that sort of plays out. But yeah, it was so interesting, so well done. I really enjoyed watching that whole process. Oh man, like, he's going through withdrawal symptoms at times. That was, I'm not going to lie, it was kind of funny. In a not so funny way, if I can put it like that. Like, it was tough to see this guy going through these withdrawal symptoms as he's just struggling so mightily, just to sort of not steal, not to take someone's possessions. The end goal obviously is for him to embarrass the senior constable, I think, the leader of the police station, and basically tarnish his name. But on his journey to do that, we see the cost that it has on him, basically, and how much it's costing him. He can't do anything. He's paralyzed. He has to steal. He has to do it. like a fiend. He needs his fix, So really well done. I really love how the whole first hour, I think it is. It's a bit lopsided because I think the intermission is at an hour, even though this movie is like 2 hours and a half. So, I think I had to watch this in parts. So I watched the first half and I was so excited when I slept and woke up the next morning to watch the second half because I wanted to see what was going to happen to this cop. Like, I thought the movie was going to be about basically the cop and his journey to basically be caught or not caught, how that was going to play out essentially. But obviously the second half goes in a completely different direction. I could not in a million years have guessed that this is where we're going. I'm not going to lie. That was so unexpected to see that happen. This movie, honestly, it turns from like I guess, general mystery thriller, with elements of sort of a little bit of crime, not really dark crime, just, burglary, which is still bad, but not as bad as, some of the other stuff that comes on later, that some of the stuff we've seen later on. But it goes into like a supernatural or paranormal kind of thriller. Like, it goes into the, the occult. It goes into obviously some spirituality comes into play, tantrics and black magic, all these things that are very sort of not just common to India, to be honest. It's not a Western thing, I would say, but it's practiced in other parts of the world as well. So yeah, I was really just blown away and didn't expect to sort of see this sort of side come about. But I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I really enjoyed some of these sort of darker aspects of these movies, and I'm trying to find movies that really show this side more and more. So if you have any suggestions about sort of the paranormal, sort of darker side of things, let me know. I have seen the movie Kumari, which sort of went into that world as well, but this one does it as well from the second half. So the whole side about human sacrifice, and I was really on board, and I was like, so first I was still in shock because I was so surprised as to what's happening, but as the journey goes on, I was so intrigued as to what's going to happen. How is this going to play out? And of course, recognizing Jeetu Joseph and his style of directing much more, the twists and turns just keep coming because there's no moment I could tell what was happening. I'm trying to read and trying to guess who the culprit might be, who the bad guys might be. Like, I'm putting aspersions as to maybe it's his friend. I thought maybe the senior constable's involved again. I did have my doubts on the girl, to be honest. at the end, the girl who basically ended up being, Lakshmi, she's the one that's basically the seductress or whatever it is to get him involved into this whole world. But yeah, the way it was just played out was really good. It was so calculated that, they have the camera footage of him committing the crime. They give it to him piece by piece. Just seeing that unfold, it's such a fun journey. That journey was so exciting and so great to me. I really enjoyed the whole side of it. And this opens the doors up to a lot of things that I'm really interested in. The whole black magic side of things, the whole spirituality side of things, as to what they're doing, the dark arts, the dark practices, the whole thing about the intersex people and their divine power, and how the goal was to basically achieve immortality or some kind of power through not killing somebody, but, basically capturing their spirit into them. So it was really dark, some really dark stuff happening here to see how many murders have gone on. I did like how they demonstrated how good of a cop Giri actually is. Because, there is some, his ego again is at play. Basically, there's the other cop he visits in the other station, and he gets abused as well by his senior. A lot of sort of hierarchy and stuff like that going on. So they kept that stuff consistent throughout the entire movie. So we learn more about this character as we keep going. But as the movie shifts into this more dark, occult kind of world, it was just really, really interesting to see how it was going. And yeah, the climax scene for this movie, really cool. Some good action scenes in this, some good chase scenes, I would say. There's a few chase scenes, I think, when he's being chased and then he's chasing, trying to find out what's happening here. And then the final action scene was pretty decent, a good little sort of brawl between the two. I guess you'd call him the tantric guru or something like that. Seems to be like a protector and sort of the person that's guiding this whole regiment or this whole practice. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a whole scary world, a whole new scary world, that whole thing is. And they touched on it, I would say they touched on it, but they did a good job of not going too deep into it to sort of isolate people that aren't into that side of things. But still keep it engaging and still thrilling. So overall, I really did enjoy this movie. I enjoyed that side of it quite a lot. Again, Jeetu Joseph and his twists are something that's the hallmark of his filmmaking, I would think, because I saw it again in this. I've got to say a few more things about this movie. Really enjoyed the performances from Asif Ali. I had not seen him before until it was brought to my attention that he was actually the same guy that's in Rorschach. So yeah, he had the mask over his face in Rorschach, so I couldn't tell who he was. But yeah, interesting to see. That's a nice little double up right there. But yeah, as I said, I enjoyed the twists and turns a lot. Kept me guessing the whole way through. I will touch on some criticisms of this movie because I think this movie, while it was enjoyable, I can definitely see a few flaws in this movie. It's not the perfect movie, I would say. I would say for one, like in Drishyam, but in Drishyam, it works a little bit better. There's a lot of reliance on exposition, a lot of reliance on, telling us what's happening. The whole, how the whole tantrics work was basically explained to us and not shown. A little bit, I wish that was not done so much because it did just bog the pacing down a bit. I thought the first half pacing was great without all the other side of things. Without the whole dark arts coming in. I thought that was done really well. But then when they sort of explored this side, I think they tried to pack in a lot in that second half, which made them rely on things like exposition and just the Swami explaining everything without us actually seeing anything. It might have been cool if we would actually see some of the practices happening in the background, something sinister happening around the whole, the whole scene, but there was none of that. A little bit of that. It is a bit long, as I said. I don't know if it needed to be 2 hours and a half. I know the Drishyam movies are quite long, so it might just be a trait of Jeetu Joseph again. He likes to sort of really spend time basically exploring these themes. So it could have been a bit longer. Other thing is, I think the romantic relationship was a little bit undercooked in this movie. At that point when he sees Lakshmi and she's hanging with her feet on the ground as a decoy to capture him. I didn't get that real like emotional pull to that because they had spent so little time. Like the meaning that she had to him, like he obviously liked her, but he was told that marriage isn't a good time right now. But they don't really explore that relationship much at all. So it's hard for me to invest really in him just being, committed to this girl. Like in Drishyam, we see how committed George Kuti is to his family. In this, it lacked that aspect. So that was one criticism I had for this movie. I think they could have, if they wanted to spend more time on that perhaps, maybe even build out a relationship through that. Potentially, they could have done something like that. But look, overall, I did really enjoy this movie. I do want to give a quick shout out to Nandikishore C. I didn't get many requests for this movie, but I was really hoping that someone would give me a movie to watch for Jeetu Joseph. So thank you, Nandikishore. I really appreciate it. Any other recommendation, guys, as always, leave them in the comments. Similar movies to this, similar Asif Ali movies. Love to check more of his stuff out. I thought he was great in this. But yeah, I will touch on one more thing which came to me through the way of the Norway Machan, a good mate of mine. He sent me an article about how basically there was a crime that happened very similar to this at the time of, around the time of this, when this movie got released, a bit before or a bit after. I can't exactly remember the timeline, but there's something about two women, I think, got killed in a human sacrifice. So yeah, man, this stuff is real. This stuff is there. Like it's not stuff to be messed with at all. Like that's kind of creepy that happened. Makes me question, is it a coincidence or what? But yeah, just really, really creepy kind of stuff. I'll be showing the article here a little bit, but yeah, just creepy stuff, man. But that'll do it for me in this review. Look, I really like this movie. I will say on my ranking scale, it's probably still a dynamite, but probably around like a 7 out of 10 as opposed to like an 8 or 9, I think. I did enjoy it a lot. I liked it quite a bit, but I do see some flaws in this movie. I think this movie was really ambitious as a final thought. I think they tried to do a lot and they achieved it mostly. But when you aim so high, like Jeetu Joseph seems to aim so high, it's sometimes you do fall into these sort of traps of just like, some things are undercooked or some things are not explained as well. But overall, look, I really, as I said, 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I really recommend anyone that's looking for a nice movie to watch, check it out. It's a real thrill. That'll do it for me. Again, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. If you have watched it till here, thank you so much. You are a legend. And I would, of course, love it if you could hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you guys on the next one. And thanks again, guys.